Guys, welcome back to another video. Guys, I'm here to tell you, man, we got some new information and some new details out of Cleveland on the real reason Dillon Gabriel is ahead of Shedeur Sanders on the quarterback depth chart. And you guys ain't going to believe what these gentlemen have talked about. But we're going to unpack all that here next, here on the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Well, guys, first of all, I want to thank all my new subscribers that have joined the channel and have joined the platform and loving the content. I do appreciate you guys. So for anybody that's now coming across this video, do me a favor, man. Hit the subscribe button, turn your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball drops another hot banger. Now, with that being said, we got some new information and some new details out of Cleveland. The real reason Dillon Gabriel is ahead of Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. Now, we all know Dillon Gabriel was selected in the 3rd round, and Shedeur Sanders was selected in the 5th round, the 144th pick. And we all know the history of Dillon Gabriel. He's a 5th-year, 6th-year senior coming out, and Shedeur Sanders is a 4-year senior. And you know what Shedeur Sanders is capable of doing. And in a small sample size of what we saw in the NFL preseason, Shedeur Sanders against the Carolina Panthers, he held his own, 138 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 19 yards on the ground, no interceptions, a 102 passer rating. And we saw what Dillon Gabriel did against the Philadelphia Eagles, 143 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick six, and a fumble, and a 72.2 passer rating. I've always said men lie, women lie, stats don't. And there is collusion going on in Cleveland. It all started off with the owner, Jimmy Haslam, really didn't want to pick Shedeur Sanders. He said Andrew Berry was the call on that. So Andrew Berry picked Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round with the 144th pick. And we all saw the video that I did about Shedeur and Andrew Berry on a hot mic, and we heard that conversation. And also the situation with Dillon Gabriel taking a shot at Shedeur Sanders, talking about the entertainer and competitors. And then he tried to stand down in the post-game press conference. But the small sample size that we saw in the NFL preseason game, Shedeur Sanders outplayed Dillon Gabriel. And Cleveland refuses to push Shedeur Sanders ahead of Dillon Gabriel. Also, there's a lot of reports out there saying in training camp, Shedeur Sanders outperformed him in training camp with his limited opportunities. In training camp, Shedeur Sanders didn't throw no interceptions. Dillon Gabriel threw 2, and also he threw 1 on the 2-point conversion, which they never put on the tracker. So they try to sweep that under the rug. And they already had their mind set coming into training camp that Shedeur Sanders was never going to be elevated above Dillon Gabriel. And I have to give props and a shout out to 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Their podcast and their radio show, they talked about some interesting things and they broke it all down. But before we get off into that, we partnered up with Underdog Fantasy. And guys, y'all use my promo code SBD23 to get you up to $1,000 in bonus cash. But this is a word from our sponsor. Underdog Fantasy is the best way to play fantasy sports. Let me tell you about the easiest way to get in on some WNBA and NBA action. Find your player, pick higher or lower, win you some extra cash. Pick between 2 to 5 players to fill out your pick'em entry. Get every pick right and win some serious cash. Use my promo code SBD23 and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Now that it's football time, follow Simply Ball Dropping as I share my picks. Like I said, pick your player, choose your amount, win money. Make picks, win cash. Thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for the partnership with us, and thank you for using promo code SBD23 on Underdog Fantasy. Well, guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and look at the depth chart that has been announced today after Joe Flacco was named Week 1 starter, which was no surprise to no one. He's going to be the Week 1 starter against Cincinnati, but he was listed as Week 1 starter, but that can change at any time. We know Joe Flacco is a 40-year-old veteran quarterback, and that was no surprise that he was going to be the starting quarterback. But let's take a look at the depth chart when they released after Joe Flacco was named the starter. So you got Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. Now, guys, pay attention to what we're about to listen to, because these guys made some valid points. We haven't seen too much of Kenny Pickett, but we know what Kenny Pickett, is doing. He's a NFL serviceable backup quarterback, but we haven't seen him in the preseason. He's been hampered. We haven't seen him in training camp. He's been hampered. But this all comes down to Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. From the eye test, we all seen that Shedeur Sanders is ways ahead of Dillon Gabriel, even though Dillon Gabriel is a 5th-year, 6-year senior coming into the NFL. So, guys, pay attention to what we're about to listen to, because they break it down so eloquently. So let's take a listen to what these young men talked about.
It's just the full-on, let's just get to the bottom of this. Shedeur outplayed Dillon Gabriel in both practice and in the preseason in their starts. No matter if it's a half each player played, you can't have it both ways. You can't say Dillon played as well, if not better, than Shedeur. And then when people use stats or just logic to push back, you can't go, well, but it was a half a preseason game. What are we talking about here?
I do like the complete ignorance of what's happening with stats attached to this. I like numbers and I like stats and I like to bring those to the table. But from a statistical standpoint, it's night and day. It's not even in the same ballpark between these two with these performances.
And to me, why it matters is that it doesn't seem to matter to the Browns. Like, I've noticed the Browns came in with a very set mindset on their 4 quarterbacks.
That is correct.
And nothing's really changed on that, despite the fact, like, listen, if the Browns haven't come off the fact they like Kenny Pickett, okay, yeah, I mean, Kenny had 4 practices before he got hurt. That makes sense. If they're still spinning the internal narratives of, hey, with the right OC, with the right situation,
Matt Canada really screwed him over.
But we have a full offseason and now full camp and almost full preseason of how Dillon and Shedeur have looked. And the totality of what the media has seen, Shedeur looks better than Dillon does. And the team can continue spinning the little narratives here, this little idea of, well, but Dillon really knows how to get in and out of the offense, and he calls plays. The operational stuff does not matter compared to the performance of it.
Right. Like, it wouldn't matter if, your quarterback can hand the ball off to the running back smoothly.
Yes. So,
that's an operational thing I'd like to have.
Well, no, but that would, the sun was in his eyes.
Ah, okay.
And, here's the thing. The reason why this does matter is the team-friendly defenses, or not even defenses, the spin of how Dillon has played, of how anyone has played, only leans into their stubbornness. Like, at some point, listen, there's literally no difference between, a 92nd pick, and I think it's pick 145. When it comes to who they truly are and why you're drafted in the late 3rd round and why you're drafted in the early 5th round, there's no difference. But it's been apparent that to the Browns, they believe Dillon is ahead of Shedeur in terms of his NFL readiness, except, which okay, that's fine. But now we've seen these two guys play. One guy looks better than the other, and there hasn't been an impact that we know of yet on the depth chart. That's problematic. that is being too cute, too precious, too stuck on your own previous evaluation. That is something to be concerned about going forward.
Well, I am curious how this would have changed had Shedeur not been injured. That's the one part that will stay with me. Like if I'm trying to give the Browns the benefit of the doubt, what I would say is they haven't had Shedeur healthy to be able to even bump him up in the past week. So, like, when we do get a healthy Shedeur Sanders, and we do see, and I would expect that to be very, very shortly, then I'll be interested to see what they do. If they continue to throw Dillon out there ahead of him, then yes, I'll agree with everything you said.
So here's the thing. I don't think there was anything Shedeur could do in the preseason. I maybe I'm being a little sticky in my own evaluation here. I think the only way Shedeur is going to change their minds is if he sees the field in the regular season and plays as well as he did in the preseason.
You heard what them guys said, man. They were spot on. They gave their unbiased opinion, and it was spot on. And I like how the dude made a little joke about the fumble. He talking about the sun was in his eyes. There's a lot of excuses out there for Dillon Gabriel for the turnovers that he had against the Philadelphia Eagles. They talking about the interception. There was two receivers in the same spot. That wasn't his fault. He's the quarterback. He has the IQ. He should have never threw the ball. In a situation like that, as a quarterback, you throw the ball away or you get down and eat it. Now, the little chuckle joke about, the handoff, the sun was in his eyes. See, there was so many excuses out there for Dillon Gabriel on his performance, trying to put it up there with Shedeur Sanders, but you can't find anything to put his performance up there with Shedeur Sanders. And the guys talked about that. They gave their unbiased opinion, and they were spot on. The guys also stated, he said Cleveland had already had it set in their mind that regardless of what Shedeur Sanders does, he is not moving ahead of Dillon Gabriel in the depth chart. Also, he talked about Dillon Gabriel's NFL readiness. I don't see that. I see Shedeur Sanders as an NFL-ready quarterback. What is the difference between Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward? Because a lot of people thought Shedeur Sanders should have been the number one pick going to Tennessee. Now, Cam Ward has been struggling here in the preseason. But Shedeur Sanders, in his outing, he showed the world what he was capable of doing, and he went up against Carolina's starting defense for the first two possessions, and he held his own. And then he caught a rhythm, and he started, slicing and dicing Carolina up. Dillon Gabriel got on the field against Philadelphia against the third and fourth string players that are trying to make a roster spot. And he did not do what Shedeur Sanders did. Shedeur Sanders did more with less. Dillon Gabriel did less with more. So them guys from 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland was spot on, and they gave, like I said, they gave their unbiased opinion and a fair assessment on what is going on in Cleveland. They're in the state of Ohio. They're in the city of Cleveland. They know what's going on. This is collusion at its finest, and people, they want to send smoke and mirrors so y'all don't see the big picture. It was never about the performance of Shedeur Sanders. It's always been about the stubbornness of the Cleveland Browns, where they evaluated them two quarterbacks and they said to themselves, regardless of what Shedeur Sanders does in training camp, preseason, he is not going to be elevated over Dillon Gabriel, because they have to justify why they took Dillon Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders. And if they move Shedeur Sanders up in the depth chart, people are going to look at Cleveland and say, y'all wasted a third-round pick on Dillon Gabriel. Now, a lot of media personnel out there talking about Dillon Gabriel as an undersized quarterback. He has to get up on his toes. And once he gets outside of script and the blitz is coming, he has happy feet. He don't know what to do with the ball. It's all kinds of reports out there. But all the reports that we hear about Shedeur Sanders, they said before coming into the NFL that he had a weak arm. That's a lie. You see the arm strength, you see the arm talent, you see the ball placement, you see the quarterback IQ, you see the awareness, you see how he reads the defense, you see how his progressions go. Carolina was blitzing Shedeur Sanders, and in the blitz, Shedeur Sanders was 6 of 7 for 84 yards when Carolina blitzed him. The two touchdowns that Shedeur Sanders threw he was being blitzed and he made the perfect read. So you guys, y'all get down in the comment section and let me know what y'all think about today's video. Like I said, the real reason Dillon Gabriel is ahead of Shedeur Sanders is shocking, but kudos to 92.3 The Fan for breaking it all down. If you're not subscribed to the channel, man, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, turn your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball drops another hot banger. And also, man, I appreciate all my new subscribers that are tuning in for this Shedeur Sanders and Cleveland Brown content. Guys know, if you're been around this channel for a while, you know I covered Shedeur Sanders, when he was at Jackson State all the way up to Colorado, covered Deion Sanders, Travis Hunter, Shiloh Sanders, and we're going to continue to do that because now it's football season. We have a mix of things. We talk about the WNBA. So I appreciate everybody's support. You know how we do about, Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky and the WNBA players. So guys, I appreciate all your support, but do me a favor, man, hit the subscribe button. And just in case I forgot, tell a friend to tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for them. And this is going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. We're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
That's all, folks.